Yo, 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 we here, man. This is straight on Irregular Raps. Welcome to Irregular Raps for people who are going to be tuned into the show. And I am the host. And if you don't know, Irregular Raps is my promotional baby. But I also just like to discover talent out there and promote people's music through my audio visualizers. So with that said, if you got any music that you want me to promote, feel free to email me like a single, or if you got an album. I'm still building up my website at regularraps.com. And if you don't mind me promoting on YouTube, I will be willing to do that for free. But man, we got Mr. Cru2 on the show. He was on my show last time and I had a good discussion with him. He's a really good producer. He's always putting out some good teachable videos about how to produce music. And he's been using different platforms, BandLab. He's currently, just spoke to him, he's currently using Fruity Loops. And
FL gang.
Yeah, man, you with the FL gang. You with the gang that I'm with now. So welcome to the team.
Thank you.
I just want to start off, man, by asking you, like, how has that been working for you as a producer? Like, is that a good experience for you? Are you learning a lot? Has that slowed you down? What is the outcome of that, man?
It slowed me down at first, because my main thing was to be like, all right, man, I established a really good workflow over the years in Reason, that like allows me to create really quickly. So like, how do I bring that over into FL? That's been the biggest challenge, but I'm liking FL, man. I'm especially, no cap, that Z game editor that allows you to like automatically make music, make videos. That's a game changer.
So that's something that I discovered later on. I don't know if the Z game thing was around for a while. I don't know if that's more of a new thing that they came up with. But I'm surprised that you found that out, because it took a minute for me to discover that. And that's actually how I create my audio visualizers, just using that, and it's a cool thing to have. Like, I feel like that's one of the ways that just shows how Fruity Loops is coming a long way. Because, years ago, they used to be very basic and very dull. But now I think a lot of professional producers are using them. So
I remember when it was just the channel rack.
Yeah,
it was just the channel rack, nothing else. I was like,
a lot of people tell me about that. Just the channel rack. I'm trying to remember. Was that around when I first started using Fruity Loops?
It was the Stone Age, man.
Yeah, that was the Stone Age. But Reason, man, like, so do you feel like that's going to be something you're using more than Reason? Because Reason was something that I've always struggled using. It always seemed difficult for me to use Reason for some reason. I think it was the layout of Reason. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
do you feel like you're going to be going back to Reason?
I think I still have the license. Like, I'm going to hold on to it for as long as they'll have support for it. And depending, they're supposed to have another update this year. Depending on what's included, I may or may not upgrade, because we have to pay. Right? Reason has to pay for updates. FL doesn't.
Wow.
But I think just for the sake of working with like audio clips and like recording and stuff like that, I might still continue to do that in Reason, just because it's a lot easier and it's a lot simpler to do that in Reason than it seems. Than it seems to in FL.
Okay. Got a little freeze going on, but it's all good. You coming back to the internet world. Yeah. So and then the other thing that you tend to use, and I forget what you said last show about BandLab, but is that something that you're seriously using, or is that just something you're having fun with?
No, it's kind of a weird story, because like it started as I don't remember if I told the story last time about using it. It's I'm a teacher, and so one year my principal came to me. He was like, "Hey, like, we have this extra period that you can either use as like a remediation period, so like you can, help the kids who are still struggling with whatever content, and this is like time for them to like, boost their grades or whatever, or you can do whatever you want. But if you choose to do something else, like, we can't pay you for it." So I was like, all right, well, I started looking around for programs or like what can I do to teach kids how to make beats. That one has to be like free and it has to be accessible. So then I eventually found BandLab, and I made little tutorial videos for my students to be able to like learn how to do it. And then it's weird because like those tutorials on my YouTube page like blew up, and like some of those videos got like 50K views. I was like, well, I guess I'm locked in now. I got to keep putting this content out. But I just use it for fun. Like they got some pretty good loops in there, but it's really, really limited in like what it can do.
Yeah, I was looking at one of your videos that you recently did, I guess for BandLab, and by you just picking out the loops and the stuff, I was like, yeah, it looks pretty skimpy over there. I don't know. It just looked,
yeah, it is. It
didn't look like it was complex, like compared to Fruity Loop. It was something different about the stuff that you pull out from. And I can see why you like the stock plugins from Fruity Loops, because yeah, they have a lot to offer. Yeah. So man, you know, for this show, man, like I wanted to kind of talk about like just Christian rap music a little bit more, and then at the end go over this video that you created more recently, but it was something that you created a year ago. I think you said a year ago.
Two years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. And you said that you didn't really know what you was doing, I guess, through a lot of the beat making stuff on that video. And so you've learned a lot, and we'll touch on that more. And the program that you are using was Reason when you was teaching
in that video.
So, so we'll go to that. But man, Christian rap music, what do you feel about the Christian rap music nowadays? Like,
what is going
on? What's going on? Like, is it heavily influencing people? I like talking about this because, first of all, when I ask people like what do they think about Christian rap music, I get different responses. I'll tell you like two of the main responses that I get is that people are like, that's a genre. That's one response. And then the other response I get is that I don't listen to it like I used to listen to it like back then, because now it just, they don't talk about God as much or whatever. But back then, yeah, man, the music was hot. The music, and I guess because the music is changing, like the sound of music is changing. And that's the same thing with secular rap. Like the sound of music is changing. But I think also the message of Christian rap, I guess we can say, has watered down in terms of talking about God and talking about the gospel, presenting the gospel through the music. So man, do you feel the same way? Like, have you gotten like the same response from people? Or I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you ask people like I asked, like, you heard of Christian rap, or what do you feel like the response is to you when you talk about Christian rap to people?
So some of the artists that I work with or that I got relationships with like aren't Christian artists at all. But like sometimes I think there was one of them that I was DMing, and like I was just kind of complaining about some stuff, like venting about some stuff in like Christian hip hop, and I had abbreviated it. I like literally put CHH, and he was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, Christian hip hop," and just like exactly like you said, like that's a thing. But man, I don't know, man. It's just it's wild. I mean, we're both the same age, right? We're in our
we're about the same age. Yeah.
It's wild how just the availability of music has really expanded to now include, you know, the 15-year-old kid in Kansas, Podunk, Kansas, I don't know, Arkansas, Montana, whatever, who's making music in his bedroom, can, you know, put something out. And as Christian artists, I just feel like what we're experiencing and what we're seeing now is kind of like the bloom or the surge of all of those kids who've never had the ability, or whose parents grew up not having that capability, now having that capability to just be able to put whatever out. But I guess when it comes to Christian hip hop, I don't want to say I attribute it or I blame or anything like that, but it seems like the staple has always been Lecrae. All right.
Yeah.
It's like so many Christian hip hop artists are looking to Lecrae to say like, kind of like all right, what are you doing? Oh, you're doing that now. Oh, so that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna go and do that as well. Or
Mm-hmm.
oh, you stopped doing that. That's not okay anymore. All right, I'm gonna stop doing that as well.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember a long time back when something like controversial that Lecrae said when he was like, I think he said something along the lines like, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian artist. I'm an artist that happens to be a Christian.
Yep.
And I remember in the context of the interview when he said that, it's way different than some people kind of took that and said like, oh, so I can, all right, I don't have to like mention Jesus. I don't have to mention anything else. Like I can just be an artist and be myself and stuff like that. So I think it's a double-edged sword. Like it's good that some artists feel like, all right, I now have this open avenue to be able to explore other kind of content and other topics that aren't just limited to me rapping about scripture. But then I also feel like it's a negative thing in the sense of like now that one artist who feels like, oh, I can just be an artist that happens to be a Christian, kind of removing that accountability from their artistry.
Yeah, and that it's a lot of stuff you said in that, especially about us. Like when we were younger, we used to listen to the Christian rappers, and they used to be, I mean, they were the trendsetters for us, But I also feel like we are getting our feed from music in the world. I feel like that where they have explicit messages, and I also see when I listen to music too, I get a sense that we are trying to I don't want to say mimic what they're doing, but it seems like we're trying to twist their message and make it the gospel message. Sometimes I get that, I observe that, and I hear stuff like that. Just because we are trying to be relatable to people listening, I get a sense that's what's happening. And I just wonder too, like when we do that, are we trying to be more like them? But
There we go.
yeah, I mean, I think it crosses over from that to just us, because we see the music is becoming more popular too. So I think you're going to have more artists, they're going to cross over into the Christian rap lane. But yeah, man, this is a big topic. What you said earlier too about Lecrae when he said Christian, you said Christians, I'm not a Christian rapper, but I'm a Christian who raps. I heard Cross Movement say something similar. I forget which artist said it, but they said
very well.
I'm not a Christian rapper.
May have said it first.
Yeah.
And then Lecrae took it, and then now everybody attributes that to But go ahead with
exactly. I think so. And they're actually the group who really first inspired me with the Christian music. But I think maybe they have, inspired like Lecrae to come up with that comment. I heard Andy Mineo say something like that too when he was being interviewed. But that's when I first heard that, I was like, well, that's a good way to look at it, because I am a Christian first. And I don't like to be called a Christian rapper all the time, because I feel like it's putting us rappers in a box a lot of times. So
that limits your range or something like that. Like, I see, I feel you.
Yeah,
because there's there's like no such thing as saying like a Christian producer, because how does it's easy to say that from the artist perspective of like the singer or the rapper or the writer, because you can put so much of what you say, or a lot of what you say or your writing can be traced back to, well, what inspired you, what influenced you. Like, oh, well, this verse, or this, they can say this verse or this story, this parable really influenced my writing, and you can see that. Oh, there we go. But how does a producer like do that? Like, I can't listen to a beat and be like, yo, that's a Christian beat right there. But
because of what we said, like you said, what we say in our lyrics kind of makes us who we are to the world. So we have a lot to say, and rappers, we have a lot to say. We have so much to say. So we're constantly giving you this in our message, and therefore, we're going to let you know who we are, because our message comes across in a certain way. So I don't know like how, us being called a Christian rappers, how that came about, but I think words are just so powerful that it causes people to label other people. But once again, like you don't like I remember listening to even Andy Mineo say you don't have people call like an anchor, and if he's a Christian, you don't have him calling like people like them Christian anchor or Christian policeman or whatever. So I don't know. We're in a box. I feel like sometimes I think also it's a good thing because people get to find us who we are too. So I feel like people won't know who we are unless we do have a label. But going back to what I said about cross movement, they're one of the groups who inspired me growing up, man. And like, I'm curious about who inspired you, because when I was growing up, I was inspired by a lot of people who listen to just secular rap music. And, you know, I think I discovered cross movement myself just by being curious. Like, I forget how I discovered them, but I remember just going to the Christian bookshops and actually finding like Christian rap artists music that way when it wasn't on the internet. And I was just fascinated that music like Christian rap was in those stores. And so I wanted to look up more and more. And when I heard one, I was like, who else is out there? So, you know, when I listened to Cross Movement, they became a huge influence. And I think the way they really influenced me was they really helped keep me, I think, in the right track, like focus more on God, because I love the music so much. I was even more focused on God because the music was dope. And I think a lot of times I didn't realize that I was focused on God as much because I wasn't thinking about like learning about God. But I think music is that powerful. Like when you listen to music, you don't realize how it's really influencing you until maybe like later on in the year. So who influenced you, man, like with Christian rap, and does it influence your music? Like also, man, you're like, you surprised me that somebody told me that you rap as well, even though you don't you don't showcase that. You
I don't
showcase
flex
yourself.
it, but my pen
Showcase
game
yourself.
comes out every now and again.
You showcase yourself as a producer, but I'm just curious too. Who has influenced you?
Well, I mean, I think for the most part, a lot of people are going to put like Lecrae at the top of the list. I would probably be like that because he was definitely the first Christian artist who like or Christian rapper who I came across and like whose music I actually liked. Now probably a lot of the Reach guys, you know, Trip Lee was probably my favorite. But him, Andy Mineo, obviously, like, and KB, because like KB just had like bars, like he had lyrics that like made you think, like, oh snap, and like having to catch that punchline like the 100th time that I listened to the song. There's him, like let's see who else. Thizzle was like a big influencer when it came to like my like how I received like whose music I ended up liking the more. But probably like Tripoli was probably like my favorite overall because I was like a T.I. fan, and to me Tripoli was kind of like the Christian version of T.I. And so it just stuck. But probably Tripoli and Lecrae and them.
They've influenced me on later on in the years. I don't think as much as Cross Movement, but Cross Movement, they definitely influenced me with their message more than, I don't know, I guess more than anybody, because they really presented the gospel in like the Ambassador, then Shaolin. And it's interesting because most of those rappers are out of Philly and I'm from Philly, so it was easy for me.
in the house.
PA. It was easy for me to be influenced by those guys, so it was more of a big deal for me. But I'm curious too, like when we listen to Christian rap music nowadays, I think some people, like what I said earlier, are like, you know, are they really talking about God in their music, you know? And that's why people bash Lecrae, because they feel like he doesn't as much as he used to. But, you know, with that said, man, you know, I think it's really important for us to have accountability, even as Christian rappers, and for us to be discipled like Jesus, you know, had his disciples be discipled. And I'm just curious, man, like how important it is for us as Christian rappers to be discipled. Like it's important for all of us, you know, but as for Christian rappers, I think, you know, we got a big role, we got a big platform. So do you have any thoughts on that real quick?
I say it's omni important. Like that's how omni important. It's hyper important. Because I just don't think, I can't name or think of any, and let's say like career, for example, any career where somebody can be successful completely 100% dependent on themselves. Like that just doesn't exist. Like there are people who like pull themselves up some of their bootstraps and like, you know what, like I hustled and I grinded and I blah blah blah, like, you know, I've achieved this level of success. But when you delve deeper into that, like you look behind them and like there's a whole team of people that are there. So I don't think it's possible to call yourself or label yourself or associate yourself as a Christian anything and not have discipleship. Like you can't be a Christian plumber and then like, you know, kind of like, nah, I'm flying solo, I'm doing whatever I want, you know.
Say that last part again. You was cutting out. Christian plumber.
Like you can't be. I don't think you could even be like a Christian plumber and then be like, you know, I'm doing this all by myself. Like, you know, you don't have to tell me how to run my business or what I do with my tithe and whatever. Like, you just you gotta have that community.
Exactly. Yeah, and part of discipleship is you're encouraging, you're building each other up, you're fellowshipping with other people. You are, you know, it's like assisting people so that they can stay on the right track with God. And we all need that. Like, I think we can do better in the Christian rap community with that for sure. The lone fellowship, but one of the scriptures I think is powerful that we all know is out of Luke 9.
Let me pull that up.
You gonna pull that up? Let me see. I thought I had it on my screen, but I don't see it anymore. I see it. All right. So this scripture says, when Jesus had called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. And he sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. He told them, take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra shirt. So, you know, what strikes me about the scripture is that, you know, the disciples, they were always around Jesus. And I don't know why, like more recently, this has been one scripture that, you know, I started to think more about, because we don't have Jesus in the flesh, but we got the Holy Spirit. So we have him everywhere we go. But it just shows us, you know, even like with them, they were always around Jesus. They were always around God through Jesus. It just shows us how important it is for us to not only be discipled, but to really have that close relationship with God if we want to walk in power and authority. And
preach.
The other thing where he said, take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra shirt. Every time I see that, you know, I used to think, I don't know, I kind of still think so now, but I was like, man, Jesus was really hard on them. Like they couldn't bring nothing with them. You know, he will always say stuff like that just seemed hardcore. So, you know, when I see this scripture, one of the things I wonder, like, I think all of us should be, God wants all of us to walk like this, but not all of us do walk like this, but walk in power and authority, you know, period. So I just wonder, like, is it possible for Christian rap artists to walk this powerfully when they are presenting the message, like performing, even when they're not performing, you know?
That's tough, man. I mean, I think to me, it seems like when Jesus is saying like, yo, take nothing, I read that as like, yo, don't be attached to anything. Like not necessarily even like physical possessions, but let's say if I had a friend like last year who, you know, took their family and like moved to Philly. Took their family and moved to Philly. Like, why? Well, like God called me there. God called me to Philly. So imagine how much difficult or what that would be like, how much resistance that person would have faced if they were attached to Lynchburg, Virginia. And like they're not gonna go. So Jesus, I feel like Jesus saying, yo, don't take anything for the journey. Because I don't want you to get attached to where I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you there and then I'm gonna call you somewhere else. So Or also like the whole idea of like focus on the job and only depend on me. Like I'm gonna take care of everything else. Trust me to take care of everything else, but just go and do the task that I'm calling you to do.
Yeah, and what you said, depend on him. I think that's really key for one of the reasons why he told them to do that, to travel light, to be dependent upon God. And you know, I read somewhere else where I think I think it makes sense is that he didn't want people who like saw them, you know, witness to them, be distracted by other stuff that they had. I think that's possible too, like stuff that they carried, because scripture said carry no staff and no no staff, no bag, no bread, no money. So I think that's just other stuff that possibly where people could see where it could be distracting. It could take away from the urgent message that they presented.
Or it could also be, I mean, Jesus was a cryptic dude sometimes. You know, sometimes he was super literal. Sometimes he was like, he said things that I was like, wait, what does that even mean? Like, this could have it could have been hyperbole. He could have just been saying, like, as an example, and then maybe later on, you know, Peter was like, hey, like, so like we about to walk for like 5 days in the desert to get to this other city. You really don't want us to bring food? It's like, look, fam, I was saying it was hyperbole. I want you to bring food, but the point is to depend on me. You know. I don't know.
So wouldn't it be interesting if he told us Christian rappers, don't bring a microphone, don't take a microphone, don't bring any speakers, don't whatever other Christian rappers have to, you know, I don't know, present the message. You just bring you. Don't bring anything else. I think that'll be, man. But
like rely on the power of the message and not on the power of your image.
But that shows you how, I mean, our message is more important too. Like you said, rely on the power of the message. That shows us how we really like, and this is good for Christian rappers coming up, because I feel like Christian rappers coming up, they're not prepared with their message when they perform. But you have to be prepared with a message. You have to give them a message. If the music doesn't work, they have the message, and that's what counts the most. Like, if nothing else works, even if you can't like do something supernatural, like bring a miracle to somebody and heal somebody, they got a message, they got something so they can take with them. So
what's more powerful than that?
Yeah.
What's more miraculous than like a changed life? You know, so I say that in saying that, like, the artist who feels like, well, me just going up there and singing a 30-minute song, it's not enough, or like it's not powerful, or like it doesn't have an impact, not realizing, like, you know, dude, there might be a crowd of like 5 people, but that one person might remember that lyric you said 20 years from now. And that might be like the changing factor, the variable that kind of makes everything different for them. But.
Yeah. So, man, you know, I did get a comment I posted up earlier from Gene. He said, seems like the title Christian is put on the back burner. I thought that was an interesting comment.
I'm just now seeing the comments here, man. Oh, that's what's
up.
Okay. I had the video blown up on my screen, so I couldn't see it. Like the title.
I do get that sense. The title Christian is put on the back burner for real, especially with Christian rap music.
Yeah, like I kind of look at it like again, like it's not everyone's path, but I feel like in the music industry, it's been some people's paths, and so because like it worked for that person, well then the formula must work for me as well. You know, not understanding that, like, well, they had a different calling than you did. Like I would say, like, take somebody like NF, for example. Like, is he a Christian? Yeah. Is he a rapper, an artist? Yeah. Like, is he explicitly vocal about it? Like, I mean, I think I've heard maybe 2 songs of his that he's done where like he's pretty explicit about like saying like I'm a Christian and stuff like that. He doesn't say it as often. Oh, I'll cut out for a second. Like, he doesn't say it as often as like some of these other Christian rappers say it. But like him not being, maybe in a sense, like I'm not trying to throw shade at Gene or like disagree or anything like that, but like whatever prompted him to say, all right, I'm not going to promote myself as a Christian artist. I'm going to just be an artist and like let cards fall where they fall, has allowed him to like have this massive success in the music industry. And then people end up finding out like, wait, the dude's a Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, snap. Wait, he doesn't curse in his songs. Wait, what? Why is he doesn't talk about killing people? And then kind of like when they delve deeper into that, realizing that like, well, what's the reason behind that? Like, well, because I'm a Christian and whatnot. Like the dude had a song with Amy Grant.
Yeah.
What Christian artist has a song with Amy? Like, I feel like that's enough of a card to be like, bro, that's it. Like, I don't need any validation. You put out a song with Amy Grant. But that's just, I feel like that was his path.
Yeah.
I feel like that was his path. And actually, like I met the guy who makes a lot of his beats, his producer. Like I know the guy like a couple of years ago, and met him. And like the dude at the time, he was doing a lot of work with Toby Mac, and probably not even realizing like, yo, this young kid, he's gonna blow up even bigger. And like he's gonna be like the next wave. But it's because it was his path. A lot of people might think like, well, that's my path too. That's what I got to do in order to be successful or to achieve that kind of status, is I have to put the word Christian on the back burner. But bro, like Derek Minor, right? Derek Minor, when he was like coming up with the Reach records and stuff like that, I was like, man, like this dude is like the weakest out of the bunch. Like get rid of this guy. And then he like left and did his own thing, and then on his own label blew up even bigger.
Yeah.
You know, he was doing those like I was thinking like, man, that period when he was doing like those basketball songs, I was like, man, this is cheeseball. This is corny. But then like years later, realizing like, dang, that junk was on every NBA commercial. Dang, like every team was playing that song. Like that, he probably got a really nice bag from that, realizing that his success is different than anybody else's, and he was very explicit about being a Christian. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Gene, he is an artist, by the way. He actually commented. Yeah, I don't know if you seen him comment. He said, "You're good, bro. Speak on it. Yeah. I'm an artist." He's actually somebody I've been talking to a lot, and I've heard his music. He's a Christian rap artist, and he got really good music, man. And salute to you, Gene. Salute to you, for sure, man. I actually want to bring him on the show at some point, but he's one who definitely doesn't cut back on the gospel message, and he presents it throughout his music. And you know, I wonder, like what you were talking about with NF, like, you know, if it could be a dangerous thing that people are surprised to find out that he's a Christian, because they don't hear the terms God is, God that in his music, but they may find out later. But yeah, I wonder if that's a dangerous route to go as well for him, but also for the people listening, because sometimes I wonder if I do feel like there's a conflicted message with Christianity. There's a conflicted message always, and I think the enemy wants to confuse our message. So I really feel like it can be a dangerous route. But I do like the fact that he's not cursing. I do like the fact that he still says that he's a Christian. But you know, sometimes I wonder, and only God knows his heart. But yeah, what are you gonna say?
And all right, so to kind of speak on what you're saying, like, you know, you're saying like it could be dangerous, him or any artist like kind of stifling the title of Christian when kind of like expressing their music or like being bold. I would say it could be equally, oh man, this turning into like a little bit of a debate. I say it could be equally as dangerous for the artist who is vocal, who then like later to come find out like, yo, they weren't being honest at all. They were being just like, they were, you know, hanging out with prostitutes and I don't know, like doing drugs and doing all kinds of like ratchet nonsense. Like, bro, like every couple of months, some big name pastor and some scandal comes out, and then like, what does that do to? There we go. Like, what does that do to not just their legacy, but the impact that they had or that God has had on other people's lives through like that individual. And then, I mean, we know how impressionable people are, that they can be like, well, if that dude was fake, maybe the whole thing is fake, or like maybe the whole thing is messed up. Like, I'm gonna just throw the baby out with the bathwater, knowing that like those who are mature know not to do that. But yeah, that's that. I guess it's a two-way street. I feel
it can be a two-way street. I think we all make mistakes, and I actually was talking to like my pastor, because all right, we're taking this to another. All right, but I'm gonna say this. But Ravi Zacharias, he was one dude who failed in we know that he died, passed away. But he's an example. He's an example where people looked at him, and then to hear what he did was like, wow, and how that could really mess up people now. So I really, one thing that I think like people have to realize is that God is full of grace and love, too. So even though we do make mistakes, even though we've sinned, we got to realize that that God has a lot of grace, a lot of love for us. But yeah, you're right. It's a double, like it could be dangerous for a rapper who who may be doing what he's doing, but he's still rapping the gospel. That's dangerous for him.
I remember how not how dangerous, but how negative of an impact it had when Andy was like he was on like some big name network, and he had like a 116 hat on, and like when asked about it, he kind of like shied away from it a little bit. And then I remember people like raking him through the coals because of that. Like, dude, you had the platform, you had the opportunity, and like they pretty much set you up to like knock it out of the park, and you didn't do anything. But I get like, oh man, like he was young at the time, like he could have been nervous. The producers may have told him ahead of time, like, hey man, like you can't, like we can't talk about any of that stuff on this network. But then the host might have not known that, and he might have like tried to give him an opening into sharing the gospel. And there's just a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily know behind the scenes, or like in somebody's spirit, to I guess to like make that general assumption or judgment overall. But what you're saying, like, yeah, man, dude, that whole Ravi Zachariah thing was wild. And I just remember I'm active on Twitter, so like on Twitter, people don't hold back. Let's just say that.
Yeah, people don't. It's the world we live in.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the world we live in for sure. Well, I'm gonna go to this too. Like, I think accountability is very important for sure for Christian rap artists. I'm sure you would agree that we need to be accountable for each other. Just for that one reason, like like Zacharias, he felt like we need to be accountable so that we can get help to stay in alignment with God, and so that we always have somebody encouraging us and giving us that message, and we're feeding back into them. So I think that's important for us Christian rappers to have. And I just wonder how many Christian rappers are accountable for each other. I will say this, Gene has really been, one of the dudes who have really been, keeping up with me. I feel like, it's not accountability, but we're fellowshipping. And when I actually talked to him,
I see what
and I don't know why. Yeah, you see his comment, but I feel like he's a part of the show, man. You could have been on the show, Gene. But yeah, when I talk to like people like him, I do really feel encouraged and blessed afterwards, because we always talk about God. So it does help you for sure. It feeds you. You're staying more and more in relationship with God when you are accountable with other Christian believers. So I feel like that's important, man. I feel like that's important.
I get jealous. Say I get jealous. There you go. Over on Twitter, like some of the artists that I follow and some of them that I know personally, they'll sometimes talk about like the group chat that they're in with like some other Christian artists, and sometimes I get jealous. I was like, man, I want to be in that circle. Like I want to be a part of that community. Just because it's been a long time since I've had a community like that with artists specifically. That wasn't because it's just different struggles and different challenges that we can kind of encourage one another with.
Yeah, I also get a sense that a lot of young people don't like going to church these days because of what they see. They see a lot of, I guess, pastors falling, and they just don't like how churches treat them sometimes. So I get a sense of that. I see there's, I don't know, a trend of that happening. I don't know if that's a good thing. I feel like it's not, but
or and I don't know of all. This is kind of like going back to the rapper Jim Jones, which horrible name to pick for a rapper, first of all. Like this but I remember an interview where he was on the Breakfast Club, and like they had asked him something. It was like some riots or something going on in Chicago. Like this was years and years ago. And like one of them asked him, like, yeah, man, it's crazy what's going on in Chicago right now. And he's like, dude, that's always been happening. It's just now the world is finding out about it because social media. So I feel like pastors have always been fallen. Like people have always been, some dirt has always been dug up about, some scheme or whatever that, this church leader was doing. It's just now becoming more open because, it gets more clicks on somebody's website and stuff like that happens. So just like Solomon said, like, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, man. There's nothing new for sure, man. We're going to shift gears, man. Yeah. And I like what you talked about there. I don't want to shift gears too quickly because I feel like we are getting into a good discussion about this. But I do want to show like you as producer, and I want to show this video. And I want to show this. One reason is because I talked to you earlier, and I want to make it a way for producers to get on the show, but not really just on the show, but to connect with other Christian rap artists, because I feel like a lot of Christian rap artists don't know about producers in general, Christian producers. And I guess you don't really have to be a Christian producer to know a producer. Like you got producers who will work with Christian rap artists. So I think like just the fact that, Christian producers are willing to work with Christian rap artists too would be a good thing. It'll be a good thing to find ways to connect with rap artists. So I wanna show this video, man, of you are demonstrating. Actually, I'm gonna let you explain what is this video? What is this video about? What is this video about?
So I had this idea. It was just an idea for a video. I should do more often though. That like I wanted to take, originally it came up as like I wanted to take the worst beat that I made last year and see if I can flip it and like make it better, because like feel like I'm progressively and always like improving and finding new tricks and new plugins and new tools. So that's kind of how the idea came about, but I ended up picking, it's not my worst beat, but it's a beat that had some issues that I was like, all right, I want to see if I can go back and fix this stuff and make it sound even better.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit of it. And I think first we're going to hear the sample that you were building around.
Yeah. Let me turn this up. Start it.
Hey, yo, Mr. Cruz.
And this is, by the way, you're using Reason.
Yeah,
right?
I used Reason to make it, yeah.
Okay.
I wish things between us would have been a little better.
So after listening to this, man, is this the style of beat that you like producing a lot of times? What would you call this, by the way? Like, is this like a genre?
Man. I don't know.
All right.
I feel like that's the case with a lot of like the beats that I make. I don't know how to label it.
Okay. This is what I hear a lot though. This style more lately, I hear a lot of this being developed. And I think one you can probably call this like maybe trap soul. I think that's like a thing that people are calling it. But I like the style. Yeah, people are harmonizing more to it. Like you got the harmony going. This is you, by the way, harmonizing to the track.
That's
you got
on auto-tune. That's right.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to this other part. You're adding stuff to the beat now.
It's pretty much the old beat. One of the things that you will notice is that there's no bass in it, right? I didn't really understand the concept of bass back then. But here I'm going to show you guys kind of what I did to revamp this beat. So one of the things that I started out with is definitely I added some 808 to it. So I added a spins 808 with some distortion on there. And then as far as the drums go, I did change up the drums. I think I kept the snare, but I did change the kick. And then some of I changed the hi-hat sound. No, I kept that the same. So some of the drum sounds I kept the same, but the really cool part is the instruments. So back then, like obviously, like I got a lot more. Hold up, got an email. I got a lot more newer, higher quality synths and VSTs. So one of them was Omnisphere. So I definitely wanted to change some of the sounds that I had in here and see what I could, if I could bring a higher quality synth into this sound to kind of make it sound a lot better. So
I'm gonna ask this question. Like you said, you didn't know what you was doing much with the bass, but now you do. So what is one of the things you really learned about the bass as far as putting bass with hip hop music?
I mean, I say it's still a struggle. So
okay,
I could lie and say, oh, I've learned a lot, but then I'll listen to something I made like a couple weeks ago. I was like, I haven't learned squat.
Yeah. What would you say is a challenge though? Because I think a lot of people, when they create beats, they may still have a challenge when they put in like the bass to the music.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the bass may clash with the kick, and that's a big challenge that I think a lot of beginner producers may have. Is that like a challenge for you?
Yes. Like my bass was loud, but my kick wasn't punching through. So I had learned a couple things. I learned about like, boosting whatever frequency gives the kick punchiness, and then decreasing that same frequency, like literally copying and pasting that EQ move into the 808, but then ducking it.
Okay.
And then I also learned about side chaining. So I learned how to side chain the kick in the 808 to, like, obviously, like, that's, if you don't know what side chaining is, it's like when, like, telling one instrument to duck down when another instrument is present. So like before, like my kick and 808 were doing this, but then like when my kick does this, my 808 does this. So there's like kind of
so that's a whole nother video, side chaining. I don't know. Have you created a video about side chaining before?
No, I guess I should. I don't even know how to side chain in FL yet. Like that's I still gotta learn.
I can actually show you one trick one there.
Bro, I need the gems from you. But in Reason, it's more difficult to do that in Reason because the way it works is like through wiring stuff. So like I have to wire this instrument, like literally drag a wire from this instrument to this instrument and do a whole bunch of and like I'll throw the compressor in it and route it through the compressor and then split that signal, and it's a lot.
I'm gonna play more of this.
I've got Omnisphere, and then I pretty much added this like Rhodes piano preset. Go over here.
You hear my kids in the background.
So you can hear it right here. And I didn't change the instruments. I'm sorry, I didn't change the melody. I just changed the sound of the instruments. All right, and then I added some piano in the background to that. And then I kept this vibe, this mallet sound the same because I really like that one already. And then I also incorporated some bass, some Moog bass. And then I had initially had strings in it, so I just kind of turned the strings up a little bit so that you can hear them a little bit better. And I mean, that was essentially it. I did like the chorus that I had. So I'm saying let's listen to just.
So the main thing you did was add stuff to this beat, right? Like you added layers, it looked like, to the string.
The main thing was I just had better quality like synths at that point. At the beginning, I mean, it's not to say that you can't get great sounds from using like stock plugins. But I mean, when you pay $500 for a plugin, like that thing goes on everything. I put out an acapella album, like I'm gonna find some way to incorporate that synth into it.
I know exactly what you mean. Like I know there's plugins that I want to buy because I have some older plugins and I know that if I had like a plugin that costs some money, that I would be using that a lot more.
There you
The
go.
sound is just richer, it's cleaner, it sounds more. It's just quality
And
is great.
the cool thing is like, because this is kind of goes back to like the difference in Reason and FL. One of the reasons I really like that plugin is because it allows you to like categorize stuff. So like, let's say I said I wanted like a Rhodes piano keyboard sound, like a Rhodes keyboard sound. So like I look up through the category Rhodes, and then it gives me a list of like, 100 different patches that it has. But Omnisphere has like the randomized feature. So like you can select one and then hit random, and it'll randomly select another one that fits the same attributes that you selected. So like Reason didn't have that. So like every single time I was in Reason, like, okay, I want a synth bell sound. Like, well, I would have to go to the bells, and there might be like 6 or 7 there. Like, well, that's it. I'm limited to that. But I have realized that FL does have like the little randomize your patch feature, which is like so great for like inspiration, and like I might end up picking or liking a sound that I never otherwise would have picked before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a question about that bass though, because I don't think you did it on this video, but I think it was another video. But there was one instance where you put more distortion on the bass. When do you like to put distortion on the bass? Because I said this before you earlier. Like when I put distortion on my bass, I like to do it a lot of times when I am automating it, and I put it on a hook, and it makes the music sound bigger. It makes the music, I don't know, kind of hit you harder. So do you use like a distortion in your bass? That's something I should have asked you earlier.
I usually throw it in. I don't know, man. I'm still trying to figure out a way, like my workflow with my bass, or like my signal chain with my bass.
Okay.
In Reason, well, there we go. In Reason, I was throwing it pretty close to the end. So it would be like EQ, compression, a clipper, and then like distortion, and maybe like a little bit of saturation. If the it's either distortion or saturation. It doesn't, whichever one sounded good. But in FL, I'm kind of realizing like I can get away with just doing like EQ, distortion, EQ again.
Okay. Let me see. So I don't think, let me see if there was anything else I want to show on this video, man. Let me see.
Probably the end when I played like the
drums.
Say that again.
Said probably the end when I actually like you actually hear the new beat that I made from it.
Okay.
I don't know how long of a stretch that is, but
I wish things between us would have been a little better. You the only thing I love, but it put me under pressure.
You was really vibing to that. It's like, yeah, I got it.
It's because I was in that room alone by myself.
These things happen all the time. It was always on my mind, but you gave me a reason to put it on.
I need to ask you about like how you use your auto tune too, because and what auto tune you like to use.
Anyways, there you go.
Well,
Took a
that
beat
could
that I made.
Another video, but
I wish things between us would have been a little better.
yeah, I don't know if there was another video after that, or you said another song you started creating.
No. It was just that. Like just hearing like, hey, this is what it sounded like before. This is what it sounds like after.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I just use the stock one. Reason comes with like a really good stock auto tune, like pitch corrector, and like I've used it ever since, just because like it's the only one that I had. Like I couldn't afford auto tune.
Yeah.
And because I mean at the time like auto tune was expensive. Like they didn't have like the auto tune access one that's only $100. Like that's way more affordable than like the 300. I mean, I say that, and I just talked about buying a $500 synth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really good, and I've been using it for a long time, and like I know it a lot better than any other auto tune or pitch corrector, and so that's what I stick with.
Cool, man. I think you are going to enjoy Fruity Loops, man. You know, I can't wait to see you start making videos on Fruity Loops more, you know, when you start to get there and you start to become proficient like me, you know, and maybe I can show you some stuff.
But I told my friends, man, like the guy who we were talking about, like how he didn't know like something super simple in it, and I was like, bro, like wait, because I love reading through the manuals. Like I don't know, man, it's just I just enjoy it.
Some people would say you're really old school for reading the manuals. You're like an old man for reading the manuals.
The disrespect,
but
the disrespect.
I didn't say that.
Once I get the hang of it, like I'm gonna start making videos and I'm gonna give y'all all the gems on stuff y'all didn't even know like FL could do. But
that's cool though. You'll definitely find more stuff than I mean, you doing that, reading stuff. I mean, you already done taught me something earlier about Fruity Loops that I didn't even know. So you're going to be probably showing me stuff in the future. Like, you know, you can do this and be like, what, for real? Okay. But yeah, man, this is the end of the show. I appreciate like people, if they tune in to watch the show, thank you for tuning into Irregular Raps. You can also catch up with my website. It's still being worked on. But if you got music submissions, send it to irregularraps@gmail.com. And follow Mr. Cruz. Where can they follow you at, man?
All right. So the name that I got right there at MR_CRU2. That's me on everything. The 2 is a Z. It's Mr. Cruz. The 2 is a Z, kind of like Dead Mouse, where like the 5 is a S. But that's me on every single platform. So on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, everything. And then that's the same thing as my website. So it's mrcru2.com.
Coolio. All right. Stay tuned. Be blessed. Flowing God's love. We are out of here.